This is a demonstration of problem 551, analyzing segment disclosures. Raytheon Company disclosed the following data related to segment sales and operating profit for fiscal 2018, and the problem has given us the net sales and operating income for each of Raytheon's segments, and now we are going to answer some questions. In Part A, it states which segment is largest in 2018 and has this ranking changed over the 3-year period. So to determine which segment is largest based on net sales, we take the net sales for each one of the segments and divide it by the total net sales to get the percentage of sales for each of the 3 years. So that is what I have already done in the problem. Then the problem asks us to determine which segment was the largest in 2018. So we see that Missile Systems at 31% was the largest segment in 18. When we look at 17 and 16, we see that Missile Systems was also the largest segment in those years also. However, except for Force Point, we see that most of the other segments were of the relatively same size. In Part B, it asks us to calculate the operating profit margin for each segment and to determine which segment is most profitable in 2018. So I have copied from the problem the net sales for 2018 and the operating income for 2018, and then I have determined the operating profit margin. So to determine that, you divide the operating income by the total net sales, and I did that for each one of the segments. The problem asked us which is most profitable. Well, that's going to be the segment that has the highest operating profit margin, and we see that is Integrated Defense Systems. If we notice, Missile Systems, which was the largest segment, isn't the most profitable. In Part C, it states which segment sales grew the most in 2018 and how does this compare to 2017 sales growth. So to calculate the growth in sales, you take the difference in the current and the prior year's sales and you divide that by the prior year's sales. So, for example, for Integrated Defense Systems, I took the 2018 sales, subtracted their 2017 sales to get a difference of 376, and then divided that by the 2017 sales to get the percentage growth. So I did that for 2018 for each segment, and then I also did that for 2017 using the 2017 and 2016 sales. We see that the Intelligence, Information and Services had the largest amount of growth in sales in 2018 at 8.8%. Now, when we look at 2017, we see that Intelligence, Information and Services had almost no growth in sales and the lowest growth. So they actually grew significantly in 2018. In the D portion of the problem, it asks us to calculate the company's accounts receivable turnover and its days sales outstanding for 2018 and to see if this seems reasonable and whether we can explain it. So accounts receivable turnover is equal to sales divided by average accounts receivable. So the problem gave us information on Raytheon's accounts receivables for 2018 and 2017. So to compute the accounts receivables turnover, we take the sales and we divide that by the average accounts receivables, the beginning and the ending divided by 2. And so we determine that the accounts receivables turnover is 18.2. Now to determine the day sales outstanding, we take 365 and divide it by the accounts receivable turnover, and we got days sales outstanding of 20.0. So what does days sales outstanding mean? That is the number of days on average that it takes to collect the accounts receivable. So we know that a day sales outstanding of 20 is low because most companies allow their customers at least 30 days to pay. So is there any explanation for why Raytheon would have such a low day sales outstanding? Well, we know based on the segment information that Raytheon is a government contractor. It may be that they're going to require some of the foreign governments they work for to make payments in advance of delivery. Also, many of their contracts are going to be long-term that are going to require the customers to make progress payments. So they're getting a lot of their payments in advance before they have delivered their products. So it is reasonable that the day sales outstanding would be low. In Part E, it asks us to assess the size of the receivables allowance and does it seem reasonable. So they provided us with the allowance for doubtful accounts for 2018 and 2017, and we were given the net amount of the accounts receivable. So first we need to determine the gross receivables. So we add the allowance for doubtful accounts to the net receivables and we get the gross. And that was for both years. Then to determine the allowance as a percentage of the gross, we take the allowance and we divide it by the gross receivables. So for 2018, the allowance was 0.7% of the gross receivables and 0.6% for 2017. Those are very low percentages. However, since the United States government is Raytheon's primary customer, and we know that the government will pay, it does seem reasonable that they would have a low allowance for doubtful accounts. And that is the conclusion of the demonstration for problem 551.